Thanks for taking the time and watching this video. My name is Aurangzeb Latif. I also go by the name of Rangi. I was born in a beautiful place called Stockton-on-Tees in the northeast of England, United Kingdom. The purpose of this video is to help the members of the public to understand what this is all about, why I've broken silence, and why I made the allegations of my own authority members who are being committing child cruelty in broad daylight, and so much more. I only ask you to just devote a little bit of time, have a look at this set of recordings that I'm making, and I'll be providing you some information and evidence for you to make a decision on independently yourself. So this story starts on the 22nd of January 2014. On this date, me and my ex-partner go our separate ways. On the 9th of February 2014, a few weeks later, my children flee their mother's home. They come to me and they ask me, "Dad, is it okay if we live with you?" So I said to them, of course they can, but what is the problem? So my elder two children said that, "Dad, there are many things that we want to tell you, but we don't know how." This is very concerning at the time for me. So the mother rang on the same evening. I spoke to the mother and I explained to her that the children are refusing to return to your care. I don't know why, but me and her need to get together and speak for the well-being of our children. So her reply was that if I did not return the children on the same evening, that she will get me sorted. So as this conversation, the way it was going, I didn't want this, so I put the phone down. The next day, on the 10th of February 2014, I actually go to the school to drop my children off at school. I drop all my children off apart from my youngest one. He's in half-day nursery. So I take him at 12 o'clock at dinner time. When I drop him off, I also let the teachers know that there's a problem. I don't really know much about it, but the children, I will be picking them up myself, and I'll inform them with any updates. I left the school at 12:15. By 1:45, I was on my way to the hospital after being attacked by my ex-partner's new partner and others. On the 10th was the first day also my wife goes to a place called my sister's place and reports domestic violence against myself. So while I'm on my way to the hospital, nobody knows that I'm on the way to the hospital. My ex-partner rings the school and says that she's going to pick the children up from school. The teacher tells my ex-partner that the father is coming to pick the children up. There's a problem, so he'll be picking them up. The mother replies he won't be turning up. So while I'm in hospital, my children, my youngest two, my ex-partner takes them from the primary school. She goes to try to collect the elder two and they flee from the scenes from the schools. Now, while I'm in hospital, my son gets a call from a family member, her mother's family, threatening him that the next time, they say a whole load more, but also threatening him that the next time they will break my legs, his father's legs. So on the night I get home after the hospital, find that I only have the elder two children, that she snatched the younger two children. 9 days later, on the 19th, goes back to my sister's place and gets a letter for domestic violence for legal aid. During this time, my older two that were living with me have started to tell me how they were subjected to physical, emotional abuse, alienation, and much more. This is quite stressful for me, as I was also going in and out of hospital trying to get repaired for the injuries that I sustained. So then my wife takes me to court on the 28th of February 2014. She makes numerous false allegations, including physical abuse, that I've never ever had in my life. Now, when we're in court, I am told by the judge that we will get some help, that people will get involved to help us. And this is where social workers became involved in my home affair. So Middlesbrough Social Services became involved in my home affair in March, beginning of March of 2014. Now when they get involved, I thought it was a godsend. This is the perfect time. My children are going to be supported. What they're telling me about what they were going through while living in the mother's care will be all more clear once these professions get involved. So I build a relationship with these professionals, with my children, told them that these are people of trust, people of respect, and they're there to help and protect them, that this is their voice. So after I established the relationship between the social workers and my children, I obviously tried to make numerous appointments with the social workers, so as a grown-up I could speak to them and tell them from what's just happened in our home affair from the 22nd of January 2014. So they kept neglecting me and telling me that they knew best, they only need to see a child once and they know everything. Well, this was very concerning for me, the way the behaviour was, the way we were getting neglected. So in the second week of March 2014, I put a complaint in. My complaint was that Middlesbrough Social Services are not listening to me or my children, my elder two children. They're completely neglecting us. So they're not listening to us. So after I put this complaint in, I tried numerous of times after this again to try to report these crimes, because my elder two children are now feeling that this is still taking place with the younger two brothers. So during this time, we also go to the police station because the social workers aren't listening. We are concerned. We want to report these crimes. We go to the local police station in Hartlepool. The police officers tell us that we can't report it. We need to go and tell the social workers because they're involved. So we just don't know where to go. However, they tell me also that if I put a complaint in, I've got to follow a complaint procedure. Now, so obviously, as you know, I put a complaint in the second week of March 2014. Now, before you know it, the social workers, without still speaking to me or my children, had actually made a document called a Section 7 report. So they made the Section 7 report, and the Section 7 report was made by 2 meetings that they had with me that they neglected, and 1 telephone call to the mother. But when I read this document, I actually realised that they've changed my history, they've changed my past. Now, more importantly, my daughter trying to report crimes. So my daughter has a school visit. So I go to pick her up from school one day. When I go and pick her up, my daughter gets in the car and she's in a tearful state. I ask her what's the matter. She asks me to drive off the school forecourt, the car park, before she says anything. So I drive off. When I get off the forecourt, she breaks down and she starts to tell me that Dad, the 2 social workers came to see me. I was on my own. I was trying to tell them what I'd been going through, but the social worker kept saying that we know your father's been beating you up. If you only tell us that, we won't let him know, but we'll sort him out. But this was quite disturbing for my daughter, and I asked her, are you sure? She kept saying that they didn't say it once, Dad. They kept saying it again and again and again to me in that meeting. I didn't know what to do. She was only 12-year-old. So this kind of a mistreatment of my children continued. They would have visits from social workers who would go around at the school telling my daughter inappropriate conversations that adultery is a form of practice, and if they went to their country they would have to follow the law in their country. This was very, very concerning for me, of the treatment, of the way they're actually talking to young children who are breaking silence. So this treatment continued. And what actually happened, this now had gone to court on the 6th of October 2014. Now on this day I have no legal representation whatsoever. There's no legal help. So the only thing I could do is try to help the judge to understand what I'm going through. So I have the transcripts here of that court arena, and I'm going to read out just something very simple for you to understand what I had said to the judge. And I was referring also about a Section 7 report. So what I say is, they are not listening, they are not hearing, they are not understanding, and therefore their recommendations are absolutely untrustworthy as well. I'm saying this because they haven't even spoken to us, and they made a document. And in this court in the 6th of October, the recommendation was that the children reside with the mother. But what they did was they decided the younger two could stay with the mother. The older one, they just cut him out the arena because he just turned 16. My daughter, who is now 13, they said go find out from her what she wants and where she wants to live. So they took a break in that court arena. But I want you to understand, this court arena on the 6th of October 2014, the social worker who'd made the Section 7 report went on the sick. And on this day, I was on the 4th social worker. So this social worker goes to see my daughter from the courts and asks her what she wants. She comes back to the courts on the afternoon. She tells the judge that my daughter wants to stay with the younger two brother and the mother. So she lies in the courts. Now I know she's lying, but I don't know what to do. So the social worker, obviously they decide that my daughter now, I have 72 hours to pass her to obviously the other party to hand over my daughter. So I leave the courts in a distressful situation, thinking, what are these social workers doing? My children are trying to report crimes that are taking place in an arena, and they want to too busy trying to help the children go back into the same arena. So my daughter, I go and break this now to my daughter when I get back from the courts. I pick her up from school and I tell her that this is what they decided. My daughter goes in a shock, bursts out in tears, that why they're lying, why they're doing this. I don't know how to answer this. I know they're lying, but what can I do? So I have 72 hours to pass my daughter over. This was on the 6th of October. Now, the following next morning, on the 7th, in the morning, at 8 o'clock in the morning, I have a big knock on the door. I go downstairs and I'm confronted by the same social worker who went to the court and lied about my daughter. So I was polite, so I asked her inside because I didn't want to make any scenes or anything. It was personal. I wanted to keep it private. So I asked the social worker to come inside. She sat down. So I asked her very clearly that, look, I've done nothing wrong to you, and what I can't understand is why would you lie against my daughter? So this social worker stood up in my home in an angry manner, stood up and said to me that, Mr. Lateef, we are the law, you do what we tell you. And if you don't, you'll get a criminal record, and then what will become of the children that you've got? Now this is concerning for me when she said this, and I was very, very afraid, very scared that here is a woman threatening me against my children and lying to the courts, lying to the judges. So I went very quiet and I asked this social worker very politely, I said, I need you to leave the home. I feel uncomfortable. So she left the home. So 3 days later, they go and pick my daughter up from school. You find in the school reports that my daughter locks herself up in the toilets because she doesn't want to go there. Now, I'm actually going to tell you everything in a nutshell. I can't explain everything because there's too much to explain. So, on the 9th, my daughter is taken from the school by the social worker. How that happens is a scary factor. However, my daughter is now living in a mother's care from the 9th of October 2014. After everything that had happened, numerous attempts of these crimes that they were going through reported, it never took place. Nobody wanted to know. So now this new social worker is involved. I'm trying to find help. I don't know where to go, because during this time my daughter was writing letters to the authority members, to schools and the social workers, to tell them about crimes. So now I'm faced with a different challenge, where she's living with the mother. She's texting me repeatedly. She's texting her brother, telling him how she feels, reporting this. She's ringing Childline, she's rang NSPCC. She just doesn't know what to do with how she's living and how she's coping with. So one of these letters I actually sent, like I say, I sent to an MP, my local MP, which is Mr. Ian Wright. I sent him this letter, what my daughter is going through. While that's in the process of getting handed over, it comes to March of 2015, where my daughter starts to self-harm. And after this letter going into the director at the time, it was taken into child protection. So this now goes into child protection. So the first meeting we have for child protection is at the beginning of April of 2015. We go into child protection. So let me give you the person or the social worker responsible now. She goes and makes a document called the Initial Child Protection Conference Document. Now when she makes this document, when it comes to April, the child protection meeting, she goes on the sick, and I've got a new social worker. And now let me tell you about a child protection. Now in this child protection, I have no legal representation, no help whatsoever, no advocates. My children have no advocates, have no help. We did make attempts to try to have a family friends to be advocates for my son and daughter independently, but I was told that if they were involved, it is possible they could lose their jobs. This is the kind of behavior that started to happen, that what the social workers were telling me. Anybody who gets involved, I was getting told this kind of behavior. So at this child protection now, we have the social worker who's provided this document, but it's not there, but another social worker. I also get this Initial Child Protection Conference document 20 minutes before we start. But on this day, the chairholder acknowledges that my daughter needs to return to her father's care, where he believes that that's where she wanted to be, and that's where she should be. So my daughter was handed over to me at the child protection. So now I have my daughter back. I get her back from child protection. She's getting settled in. And while she's getting settled in, she then shares with me some recordings of what was taking place. Now when the first recording she shared with me, I asked her, what made you record this? She said to me that everybody who was mistreating me, I started to record it just to show somebody that I am being mistreated and I need help. Now when she showed me what she had, Now that was quite disturbing. So let me go back for you for a moment. On the 6th of October 2014, where the court case was that the social workers go and see the child and asked my daughter what she wanted. On the 7th, she made a recording the very next day. So let me share that recording with you now.
I'm actually Latif, and it doesn't really feel like anyone's listening to me. And I write all the time. I'm getting told to go live with my mum, but I don't even want to. She's lied so many times about her affair, but obviously I've even heard about. I've heard her talking about a person. I don't know why people lie. I don't know why she's lying. Social worker said that it's my decision. I have a say in all this. Obviously I don't. I said to them, they said to me, oh, I know you love your brother so much, but you only love your dad. So who would you go live with? I said, no matter what, I'm gonna live with my dad. But why am I gonna live with my mum then? It doesn't make any sense. I just want people to know that I want to live with my dad. I want my brothers to live with my dad. There are many reasons why. Obviously I'm too upset to say anything. So please Allah, just fix it as well.
So this is what my daughter is telling, and this video wasn't directed to me. She wanted to give it to somebody because nobody was listening to her father. Then let me share another one with you. This was on the 9th when social worker, the same social worker who lied in the court, goes and picks my daughter up. I'm going to let you listen to this yourself.
You're on the phone to your dad there?
Yeah.
You're not giving yourself a chance to settle with your mum? If you're on the phone to your dad all the time, it's not gonna... It's upsetting you more?
Well, not really.
How?
Because I want to live there. Is that the problem? I don't want to live with my mum. I want to live with my dad. But no one seems to understand that.
But the arrangement is the court's saying that you have to live with your mum. And by phoning your dad all the time, it's only upsetting yourself more. So you're best...
That isn't.
Best off giving it a chance. Not be on the phone so much with your dad and try to say about you and your mum. See how it is about getting yourselves closer together, and that's what we want you to be, closer.
Or maybe I should just be living with my dad. I don't know why you could have just let us all live with my dad. We would have been happy and you don't have to go through this.
Because granted you're all together, but I think at the time there's other things. We look at the future as well as the present, and your dad's got some really strict rules of how he won't speak to people, that he won't speak to me because I don't agree with what he's saying. This is an example where I could talk to your mum. I've says to her things that she may not agree with, but she's still willing to work with us. Now I want that for you, so that you, even though she doesn't agree with, if you don't agree with them, she's not going to be totally strict on you. It's not her way or no way. And that, I feel that's the way it's going to be with your dad.
No, it isn't.
Well, he has shown, not just to children's services, but to everybody.
My dad wants to make things work so then we can all see each other.
But it's under his rules.
No, it isn't.
The thing is, it has to be everybody's rule. Everybody has to be happy.
Well, obviously that's not happening, is it?
No, it's not. Well, hopefully that's what we're waiting for.
It's
Hello,
not gonna
you
happen this
two.
way.
Now, I'm going to leave this up to yourselves, how you feel. Somebody was talking on what they were doing to your child. All the recordings on this concerns that I'm sharing with the members of the public were recorded after she had moved into her mother's care and before she left her mother's care, and when I got her back in 2015 in the Child Protection Conference. This is the period we're talking about, and these are only the recordings for this period, not others, because mistreatment continued. So in April we have our core group meeting. Now when we get into the core group meeting, I find myself with another social worker, because the social worker that was involved in the child protection, now he's gone on the sick. So I have a new social worker now in April. So this social worker, after the core group meeting, and in the core group meeting, I'm actually asking them that why they're neglecting me, why they're not listening to me or haven't spoken to me since the involvement, and I'm just getting passed about. However, after the core group meeting, I spoke to this social worker. I asked her for 5 minutes of her time. So she gives me the time. So I tell her that I need her to help me out. So this social worker, this is what I show her. I show her this document, as you can see in front of you. It's dated the 23rd of March 2015 by this social worker. Now on the first page, when you turn over and you have a look at the first page, now it's highlighted again there for you. You can take your time and read that. And what you'll find is that she's reporting that I am continuously breaching court orders. Instead of taking the children to the mother, I've been taking the children to school on the following Monday. Very, very clear. So I showed this to the social worker and she says, yes, that's what it says and that's what you've done. So I said, look, let me show you another document. So if you have a look at this next document, now this is a legal document from solicitors where it's dated for you. And the same social worker, it says in this document that this social worker will make arrangements for handover to take place. Now this is a document, as you can see, is dated the 13th of October 2014. What was the outcome? Now if you look to the next page or the next document, this document is dated the 6th of November 2014. This is by solicitors again. Now in this document it tells you, it's highlighted there, that we understand that it has been agreed between you that the children to be taken to the parents on a Friday by our client and that you return the children to school on a Monday morning. So the social worker arranged me to do this. So I asked this social worker again, I said, could you tell me, if you go back to this page here where she's reporting this crime, have I broken a court order? So she tells me that I have not broken a court order. There has been a problem, but she will sort it out and get back to me. By the next core group meeting, she'll get back to me. So May comes, I have to wait another 30 days. May comes. When I go to the core group meeting, I find the social worker that took my concern, and now she's being put on the sick. I have a new social worker. So this social worker, I asked the previous social worker about some information that I given that social worker. Could she shed some light? She said to me that what the other social worker did, that's not my job. My job starts from today. So this is the kind of behavior of the social. Now, however, this social worker in May, I asked her the very same thing. I'm telling them the very same thing in the core group, that why we neglected, why isn't anybody taking any concerns? So this social worker at the end of it gives me 5 minutes to speak to me independently. So when I get together with her, I then show her this same document and more. So this social worker then says to me that this is wrong, I have nothing to worry about, that she will go find out, sort this out, and she will have my answer for the next core group. So now wait another 30 days till June 2015. So in June 2015, I now am on, and I go to the core group meeting in June, and now I have another social worker because the previous one has been taken off on sick. Then July, then August, and this continued. Stage 2 investigating team came involved in 2016 in February. Here's my complaint to Stage 2 investigating team. That Mr. Lateef is of the view that Middlesbrough Council failed to act on his concerns surrounding his children and did not consider their views appropriately. Number 2. Mr. Lateef is concerned that his children have experienced consistent changes of social workers, currently 12 social workers, which is not acceptable. Number 3. Middlesbrough Council preventing a family friend being an advocate for his children, and Mr. Lateef would like his children to have an advocate support of their own choice by their side at meetings. Number 4. Middlesbrough Council have failed in their duty to care to protect Mr. Lateef's children from physical and emotional harm. Number 5. Middlesbrough Council have continued to stipulate that Mr. Lateef's contact with his children needs to be supervised when this is not a requirement of the courts. Number 6. Middlesbrough Council inappropriately confronted Mr. Lateef at core group meetings held on a date, stated he had breached the terms of his court order without due cause. Now the reason why I didn't give you a date there, because this was a regular account. Everybody would say that I broke the court order, which I never, as I've already shown you. So this is my complaint. So now let me tell you about a stage 2 investigation, how that works. Firstly, what you have is 2 independent officers that will turn up. When they turn up, they don't want to have a look at your documents or anything, they just want to get some verbal information and a view from you so they could go and do some investigation. So I speak to them, I tell them about my experience through obviously the years, what's taken place. So what they do is they take the information, the right details and everything, what they want, and before they go, I asked them, I said, look, what kind of powers do you actually have? And they assured me that they have some powers, because I mentioned to them that these people are not cooperating with anybody. Anybody who gets involved, they're just neglecting them. So they assured me that this will not happen. So then what happens, they go and meet the social services, Middlesbrough Council. They speak to them, and approximately 2 weeks later they'll come back for some clarity. They'll come and see me for clarity. So when they come and see me for clarity, they get some questions, answers they want extra to get off myself. That's not an issue. And then they leave. Now, during this time, I'm trying to think what to do. So, stage 2, they go, and I'm waiting. Then, obviously, I decide, I think, I'm not getting anywhere with the social workers or the managers, so I actually sent some information. I asked through an email to a director in March of 2016, the director at the time. So this director tells me that the answer that I'm looking for is in the next court room that we're going to, which was in March as well. So I go to the court and I ask this question, and the judge tells me that it's the wrong place and wrong person you're asking. You need to be asking them back at the office. So I come back and I email obviously the director again. So I say to the director that I've sent you some information. You've told me it's obviously the answer's over there. Could you please answer the following question, because I'm still trying to share the information with them. So the director then sends me an email back that I no longer work for Middlesbrough Council. You need to speak to somebody else. He leaves. So a few weeks later again, patiently waiting, I ring the stage 2 investigator up to find out any updates. So the document's fully made and it's sent out. So then I get the document of stage 2 result. And what you find in the stage 2 investigator, that it tells you the kind of things that I need you to be understanding. That there are up to about 15 different sets of documentations that the stage 2 investigating team asked for that they did not provide. They find that they have been biased towards the mother. They find in the reports that the professionals have a preconceived view of Mr. Lateef. They find that Mr. Lateef has been treated differently by core group members. They could only speak to the last 2 social workers. They weren't allowed to speak to the others. So this is what they find in the stage 2 investigating. So I'm thinking, you know, it's there. What do you do next? Where do you go? So they tell me that so I actually ring up the stage 2 investigator to find out what's going on. Where do I go from here? So he assures me one thing, that this is going to go to stage 3. And when it goes to stage 3, there will be a lot of people who will be getting involved. Now, I'm not sure what that meant. But I was reassured that all my answers will be answered and everything will be put to rest at stage 3. So then I applied for my stage 3 investigating. That took place in June of 2016. I meet Middlesbrough Council and I asked them for stage 3. They asked me what makes me believe that I should go to stage 3. So I show them just one example. So when I show them this example, they say okay. So when I leave, they decide that they decide that I can't have a stage 3. They don't tell me why. They just say, we don't want you to have stage 3. We want you to go to the Ombudsman. So now I'm applying for the Ombudsman. So I put the application. It's a time process. I get all that done and we put it in. However, in the meantime, we have a court case. So 6th of November, court case. In this court case, the judge decides to support the mother, obviously with the allegations that the social workers had been making against me, that obviously was a downfall for myself. So she was allowed to move out of the town. So what she did do, the judge, that once we leave the courtroom on 6th of November 2016, that they need to establish my relationship with my younger 2 children. So once I left the courtroom, all my contact would be stopped. The mother would just fled. I'd never seen my son for months. So this, now I'm waiting, I'm going through a complaint procedure. Now, the Ombudsman gets involved in January 2017. Now let me help you with my complaint to the Ombudsman in 2017. So my complaint to the Ombudsman is: number 1, prejudging the situation. Number 2, bias towards the children's mother. Number 3, ignoring concerns I have raised by ongoing preconceived ideas about my situation. Number 4, false accusations about me. Number 5, providing false information to the courts and other professionals. Number 6, withholding information from the courts and professionals. Number 7, unprofessional and unethical approach by social services. Number 8, jeopardizing sibling contact. Number 9, lack of culture awareness. Number 10, failing to listen to my older 2 children. Number 11, invading my daughter's privacy by demanding to examine her iPad and not to return it to her. Number 12, failing to follow Middlesbrough Borough Council complaint procedure. Number 13, failing to respond to a doctor from CAMS following her self-harming. Number 14, having 13 social workers in 2.5 years. So this is my complaint now to the Ombudsman. The Ombudsman gets involved in January 2017. So here is a process that you've got to go with the Ombudsman. I try to make communication to share with him my information and my evidence and what we're living like and what we're going through. So in January, I meet up with the Ombudsman just for an hour or so, just to try to explain to him the serious nature of the problem. So the Ombudsman says that he can't exactly see any of my documents or information whatsoever until he's had the information off the council first. Only then he could do an investigation. But he still met me for an hour without any documentation for a verbal conversation. So now I am actually waiting for him to get the documents so we could proceed. Well, what happens is Middlesbrough Council don't give the Ombudsman the documents till October, late October 2017. They withhold that information for such a long time. So now in October now, in 2017, he gets his documents. So the earliest I can start now is in November. So I could start relating and giving him some information. So I've given him some information in November into December because there's so much documents. They kept making that they kept making false allegations. Because you have a good cop, bad cop. Well, it's like having a good social worker and bad social worker. So by December, I'd approximately shared 5% of information with the Ombudsman and some recordings. So in December, near Christmas, I get a call from the Ombudsman for some clarity. The first time I get a call off him to discuss anything about my complaint. So he rings me up and he asks me, now Mr. Lateef, there's a particular recording you've sent me. Could you just confirm that I'm under the impression that it was recorded in the mother's home? I said, is it correct? I said, yes, it is. It is correct. So he then says that, Mr. Lateef, what is confusing me, maybe you could help me shed some light, that in this recording, crimes are taking place on your children in front of the mother, in the mother's home, while the social worker is sat in the very same room. But the social worker is reporting that crime is taking place in your home. So I didn't know how to, what do you want me to say? I mean, I'm putting it polite as I can what they're doing. They're framing me, they're blaming me. Anything that the mother does, they blame me. Anything that they do, they just blame me. So I tell him this, keeping it very simple. So then he goes, okay, so he gets off the phone. So now I'm thinking I need to give him more information. So in 1st of January 2018, I sent him another email with some whole load of information regards of my complaint. So the 2nd of January, he emails me back and he tells me that Mr. Lateef, I no longer can investigate your case as it's been passed through the courts. Now, ladies and gentlemen, everything that I have shared with you in this recording, I've never spoken to any judges about them committing perjury, manufacturing documents, manufacturing concerns, bullying us, mistreating us. I haven't never spoke about it because I had to follow a complaint procedure. So this is what a complaint procedure looks like. But my journey never stopped, because at this point I have 2 young children that 2 of my boys that I have not seen, and I've got 2 elder children who have not seen their own siblings till this point, because the mother obviously left and we just don't know where she was. So our journey continued, but during all this time, through 2014 and 15 and 16 and 17, I had different people give me different ideas. So one of the ideas of a police officer was that a lot of these crimes that they're reporting took place in Scotland. Maybe you should report it there. So then in March of 2018, me and my elder 2 children, with this evidence that I'm showing you, ended up in Edinburgh police station to report these crimes. When we went inside, we gave him our details to report these crimes. The officer came back out and told us that we need to go back and report it in my own district. But I explained to them that we have been telling them since 2000, we've been putting the reports in, but nobody's coming out. So they told us we need to leave. So we left. So then in mid 2018, my daughter was getting sick of the way she's getting mistreated, that how she suffers with not seeing her own 2 little brothers. So what she does, she sends an email to the Chief Executive of Middlesbrough Borough Council in mid 2018 with her views of what's going on and sharing with him these live concerns. Now the Chief Executive actually makes an appointment with my daughter and my son to meet him. So my son and daughter go and meet up with the Chief Executive. But when they turn up, they're told that the Chief Executive has gone on the sick, and who's replaced him was the last 2 social workers who have then confronted my children and continue to mistreat my children. So after that point, we didn't know what to do, because nobody wanted to know. We were showing these live concerns to the police station, that they were telling us that we had to go through a complaint procedure. Anybody independently who sees this knows there's a problem. So the journey still continued, searching for my 2 boys. So it took till October 2018 when we found out where my boys were, and that was through a game that the boys used to play with each other through, Xbox or wherever it is. And we found out which location they are in Scotland. So what we did is we applied for obviously help in Scotland, and in Scotland I was grateful that the authorities gave us legal help. So I asked for contact for both of my boys, from the mother through solicitors. But instead of giving me contact with the boys, what she decided, she just handed me over the older one. So I got the older one out of the two on Boxing Day of 2018. I get my son back on this day on the way home travelling. My son asks me what about the younger brother, his younger brother. I said, don't worry, we're going through the solicitors, we'll sort this out. Now, my son said, well, I'm concerned. I said, why are you concerned? So he reports more concerns, more crimes that have been taking place. Now, when we get back, obviously these crimes in such a nature that I have to report. I can't allow people to mistreat children in this way. So as a result of him raising these concerns, since the point I got him to come and live with myself, the mother stopped all contact between him and his younger brother now also. Now, we went obviously through the solicitors to get contact for the youngest one, but she neglected and she kept moving again and again and again. Now it's been 3 years I've not seen my younger son. 3 years. The older two siblings, they haven't seen the younger one for 3 years. We don't know where she is, where our little boy is, in what condition is he in. Because he was one of the children who were there while these crimes were taking place. During 2014, 15, 16, 17, and still probably continue to do so. He didn't have no crimes before 2014. The only one that didn't. That was because since birth he lived with me until 2014 on the 10th when I was attacked by my ex-partner's new partner. That was the time when she picked him up and stopped all my contact with him. So if you find any concerns with what I'm sharing with you, with these live concerns, I'm going to leave at the end of this recording. But to understand what I might be going through or what people go through and how and where the help is, we don't know. Because our own government bodies are alienating our children, our own government bodies are mistreating our homes. And this is Middlesbrough Social Services. So, the kind of people that I've been to throughout this journey, I'm going to give you a list of a lot of the people who've known about these crimes, that the plea has gone to them, but either it gets passed on or we get neglected or they're just getting controlled by social services with their lies. These are the people who all I've gone to, or this has passed through their path on their front table, on their table for them, but we've never heard from nobody still. MP Ian Wright, MP Mike Hill, MP Dr. Paul Williams, MP Matt Vickers, MP Andy MacDonald, Mayor Paul Becks, Hartlepool, Andy Preston, Middlesbrough, Chief Executive of Middlesbrough Borough Council, Tony Parkinson, Chief Commissioner of Police, Barry Coppinger, many of the detectives, police officers, medical departments, hospitals, universities. Now, these concerns have been neglected by the authority members, but not by the public and other authority members. So I'll be sharing in this recording places like North Sea General Hospital, Hartlepool Hospital. Your concerns, you took them in. You found concerns with what I had to share with you. But today, all your concerns have been neglected by these authorities, only just to cover up each other's failings and mistakes, but would neglect our children instead. There are many more people involved, but that I will be breaking down for you in the coming videos. But how I live today, I could only just let you know in a simple sign. There's no words for it. So if you find any concerns with what I am sharing with you, and you take this matter seriously, please take it to your local MP, your local councillor, your police department. Let them know that we are living in the northeast of England, where our children suffer daily and no help comes to the aid of our children. Thank you very much, and really appreciate you taking your time in watching this recording. Thank you.